Okay, so we said here that if it meant l'chayim plural, right, that sounds like it holds like Rabbi Eliezer. So they say, Ihachi lema tanan stam like Rabbi Eliezer. So Damar l'chayim, they say, lo, my l'chayim da'alma. L'chayim means just regular l'chayim, okay, meaning just having regular lechis in general. Posts in general, this is the size they need to be. Ihachi koranami nitne korot. Well, then the previous Mishnah should have said beams in the plural form, and it doesn't. So that doesn't make sense. Umay korot, and then you would say korot means korot da'alma, beams. So they say hachi kama. This is what they really meant to say. Otan l'chayim shenechleku b'hem Rabbi Eliezer v'chachamim govhan asarat tvachim v'rochan v'ovyan koshu. What it means to say is the posts that the rabbis disagree with Rabbi Eliezer and the rabbis disagree about, those posts need to be 10 tvachim. Okay, and there, in other words, it's saying the posts that were under debate. Do you need one? Do you need two? That's why it doesn't really actually hold like Rabbi Eliezer. V'kama kol shehu. Now, what's kol shehu? Tani Rabbi Chia afilu kechut hasarbal. Even a small string that you use to sew your cloak or something, that already is enough. Tana. Now they bring a bright. Asa lechi lechetzi mavoy. Ein lo ela chetzi mavoy. If you take your beam, okay, and you put it in the center of your mavoy, meaning all the way inside your mavoy, the walls go all the way down. You put in the center of that mavoy a beam going across, a post standing up. So you only have chatzi mavoy. So now the Gemara says, what do you mean? Pshita, isn't that obvious? Of course, that lechi wouldn't work for the outer part of the mavoy because the post isn't there. So they say, Ela ema yesh lo chatzi mavoy. This is about whether the cup is half full or the cup is half empty. What it means to say is you get the inner mavoy, meaning you can carry within that inner space. So the Gemara says, Hanami pshita, that's also obvious. So they answer, you might have thought that you can use the whole space. That you can't use the whole space at all. Because if we allow you to use the inner space, maybe you'll come to carry outside the lechi because you'll think the whole mavoy is allowed. Kamash malan, that you can do this also. Amar Rava. Rava says, Asa lechi lemavoy, v'igbihomen akarka shlosha. What if you did a mavoy, a lechi for your mavoy, a post, but you raised it 3 tvachim off the ground, or shifligomen akotel shlosha, where it was 3 tvachim away from the wall. Lo asava lo klum. This is not useful at all. Afilu le Rashbag de Amre Amrinan Levud, even Rashbag, who holds Levud is 4, this still wouldn't work according to him. Now we're going to learn something interesting about Rashbag's opinion. When he says Levud is 4 tvachim, and this is why maybe we never heard of it until all of a sudden we heard about it, it's because Hanemile lamala, aval lamata, kevan dahavi machitza shagdim bokim ba lo ka'amal. He wasn't talking about close to the floor 3 tvachim, and that's why when it came up in Shabbat, it was always things close to the ground. There we don't use 3 tvachim, 4 tvachim. 4 tvachim is only when you're up top, like you want to say your beam can kind of reach the wall. We say even within 4, or your sukkah, sukkah space, but not when it comes to things attached to the ground. Because when it comes to the ground, remember we talked about the kid, the baby goat running through. That's going to be an issue at 3 tvachim. Even he would agree with it. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Rachban Shlosha Tvachim. Now we're going to deal with Rabbi Yossi. He requires 3 tvachim of width. Amar Rav Yosef, the question is, do we hold like him or not? So Rav Yosef says that Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Ein alachat Rabbi Yossi, lo behilmi, v'lo belechayim. Hilmi is some other case in Shabbat that we learned about making salt water. Since you can't pickle food, question is, can you make salt water? So he says, there's a debate, Rabbi Yossi and the rabbis. We don't hold like Rabbi Yossi there, and v'lo belechayim. Now remember, Rav Yosef forgot things in his old age. So comes Amarle Rav Huna Bar Chinana. Usually it's Abai who reminds him. Here it was Rav Huna. He says, Behomi Amar Lan, Belechayim Lo Amar Lan. Last time you taught us this, when you were younger and you remembered, you told us only about Homi. You didn't say anything about that we don't hold like Rabbi Yossi, which would seem to imply that we do. So Maishna Behilmi, the Plige Rabbanan Ale, but then they say, what would be the difference? Why would we hold like him in Hilmi? Because the rabbis disagree with him, meaning he's a unique opinion. L'chayim Nami, Plige Rabbanan Ale. Same thing would happen when it comes to the Lechi. So Amarle, Shani L'chayim Mishum Dekai Rebbe Kapate. Remember by the Lechi, we suggested that Rebbe, who held that you need 2 pasim and a chatzer, and the reason why it was 1 amma extra was because there were 3 tvachim here, 3 tvachim there, and he held like Rabbi Yossi that you need 3 tvachim. Maybe that's why. Okay, so since Rebbe held like Rabbi Yossi, that might explain why he held like Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda. Now we have a different version. Rav Rechumi matne hachi. He taught like this. Amar Rav Yehuda barei Rav Shmuel bar Shilat mishmei de Rav. Ein halacha ka Rabbi Yossi. He teaches that Rav Yehuda taught we don't hold like Rabbi Yossi. Lo behilmi v'lo belechayayim. Amar le. Amart. So they asked him, did you really say this? Now it's a big question who they asked. Did they ask Rav Rechumi? Or did they go to Rav Yehuda himself and say, did you really say this? Rav Rechumi says you said this. Did you really hold this way? Amar lehu lo. So he says to them, no, I actually didn't say this. Amar Rava, Elohim Amara, I swear you said this. V'gamrina lamine, and we learned it now from you. Umay time akahadarbe. And now they say he must have changed his mind. Why did he change his mind and decide to hold like Rabbi Yossi? In the end, because they asked him in the end, do you hold this way? And he said, no, I really do hold like Rabbi Yossi. So why is this? And here, this goes back to what we learned yesterday. Remember Rabbi Meir? We didn't hold like him because he gave all the sides, and it became very unclear to people what the clear answer was. Rabbi Yossi is the opposite, and that's why they paskin like him. Mishum de Rabbi Yossi nimuko imo. He gives his answer with it, meaning he's very clear. When he teaches something, he explains why he teaches it. This is always important when you're a teacher and you explain, or you're a parent and you explain to your child why you're saying something. If you explain why, it makes a lot more sense, and then they keep it. So that's an interesting thing about psikat halacha. Amarle Rava bar Rav Chanan la'Abaye. Hilchetamai. So what's the halacha? Now we're a little confused. Do we hold like Rabbi Yossi? Do we hold like the rabbis? It almost sounds like we should hold like Rabbi Yossi. So what's his famous answer? Amarle puk chaze ma amadavar. Go outside and see what people are doing, and then you'll know what the answer is. It's a fascinating answer. When you don't know how to paskin or you're not sure, it says, look at what the people do. There's an assumption that the people have an intuition as to what's right. Go look what they're doing. And in fact, they were using posts that were less than 3 tvachim. So it must be we hold that way. Some people say that it wasn't Rav Bar Chanan who said it to Abaye. It was actually Rav Chanan himself. And it wasn't about our topic. It was about something else. We learned this in brachot. If you drink water just because you're thirsty, what bracha do you make? Omer shakol niya b'dvaro. Rabbi Tarfon omer borei nefashot rabo b'chesrona al kol ma shebarata. You say borei nefashot as a bracha before you drink the water. Amar Rav Chanan la'Abaye hilchet hamay. So he asked Abaye, what's the halacha? And what did Abaye answer? Amar le puk chazema amadavar. And you can go out and see for yourself. What do? We say shahakol before, and we say borei nefashot after. And that's where they learned it from what the people were doing. Interesting way to end the daf about how we paskin halacha. Is it because someone gives a good answer and it's very clear? Or is it we go look and, right, when we're not sure, we look at what the people do? Anyway, those are food for thought for today. And Shavua Tov, everybody.